Good day, everyone. Just ask you to add yourselves to the notes as an attendee. Probably be a few minutes before we get started. I think Dustin's going to be chairing this meeting, so hopefully he should be here before too long. Or maybe I am. I see my name on the list today. Your mic is live, David. Hello, by the way.
Hello. Just a second. Oh, look, there's a human.
Yeah.
And let's see here. I only caught half of your sentence, Shock. Are you just commenting about my misspelling of my own name or something else?
I was just noting that you had your microphone on. It was that or a pearl of wisdom for the ages that's lost forever. I don't know.
For Pearl.
I'll give it another minute and then we'll kick off. Okay. All right, let's give it a kickoff, I think. So the first order of business tonight, or this morning, or this evening, or afternoon, wherever you may be on this wonderful planet, is introductions and new friends. So if you're new and you feel like introducing yourself, that would be wonderful.
Oh, yeah, this is Victor. I joined many meetings, OpenSSF meeting, but probably the first time here. Just to have a question actually about this repository security maturity level. Like, for example, without Sigstore, is there such a security level? I'll probably ask a question later.
Oh, I've frozen. Check, check. There I go. We could put that in as an agenda. Okay, so that's Victor. Anyone else want to introduce themselves? First time visitor.
Hello. I'm Noah. Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect. I'm a researcher with Open University, and I'm researching maintenance and security vulnerabilities in open source software. Very excited to be here.
Cool. Anyone else like to introduce themselves today? Going once?
Sure, I will. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I can't get my camera going right now for some reason, but my name is Ryan Ware. I'm from Intel. Mr. Wheeler should recognize that name and wonder how a bad penny like me can show back up. But it's good to see you all. I recently started back at Intel after having left for a year, and I am focusing on OpenSSF. So
Awesome. Awesome. Nice to see you. Okay,
well,
I think.
I'll try to get the camera so you can see me. At
Well,
some
so it's nice to hear you. I'm not sure. Nice to meet you in any case.
Nice to meet
all right,
you.
I think that's all the new faces, and the rest of us are just the usual crowd. So the first item on the agenda is from Brandon Lum, who's unable to attend today. He has opened a pull request on our workgroup repository. The pull request includes data from the survey that's been somewhat anonymized. It includes a summary of those results. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, last year we did a survey of package ecosystems, asking questions about what practices they have, what practices they would like to have, and the same again with tooling and a few other sort of topic areas. So it's worth a read. I can hardly recommend it. Also, of course, looking. I've frozen again to go check. Yeah, there we go. I'm having just one of those days. So yes, feedback definitely welcome. And this is stuff that we've talked about in the past as well. I had a pass through this afternoon. It all seems like a long time ago. Okay, were there any sort of questions or anything? I don't know how much I could answer or speak to on that one. Blissful silence. All right, let's move on. Next is Dustin.
Howdy, folks. I just wanted to share, I haven't been like directly working on this too much myself, but on behalf of the GitHub folks and NPM folks, they have a private beta running for their provenance feature. So you can build an NPM package with salsa provenance and publish that to the NPM registry, and it shows up there and everything. Looks like maybe Zach has added some more details in here. The public beta will be on the roadmap to be published by the end of March, and they want to make this generally available by June. But there's currently a private beta that you can get access to by emailing Zach, and just if you're interested in sort of seeing what they're talking about with salsa, I think that's probably a good place to sort of peek at what's going on. And yeah, any feedback for them would be good as well. I think that's sort of the first ecosystem to adopt salsa and provenance into the registry, so it's pretty cool.
Any sort of questions or thoughts the folks might have? I was sort of curious, do you know how this might be published? Like, sorry, let me rephrase that. And the salsa provenance would be, I assume, JSON files that live somewhere. Is that right?
Yeah, they're essentially in toto attestations that live in the repository. Maybe I'll just quickly skip to my next item because it sort of rolls into it.
Oh, good. That's a good idea.
The salsa spec is also moving to a 1.0 release of the specification that sort of describes what the provenance file and everything looks like. So NPM has sort of integrated against an early version of the spec. So they have some changes to make to align with 1.0 because it hasn't actually been released yet. One thing that I'm planning to include in the 1.0 release for salsa is sort of a guide for how repositories should think about adopting salsa. So like what the file looks like, its relationship to artifacts, how it should be generated, that kind of thing, how it should be validated. So stay tuned for that. That will be in the 1.0 release. The salsa spec is going to be launching a release candidate fairly soon for the 1.0 spec. I TBD whether that includes this or not, but the goal is to have sort of a general guide for software repositories to adopt salsa, sort of built on what NPM has done and what we generally think should happen for folks in ecosystems.
That is it's exciting that it is at last coming to a 1.0. And I look forward to, I don't know, probably a couple of days, marinating in the release candidate to really give good feedback. But I'm sure I'll find some typos and some grammars that I can claim credit for fixing. Okay, the next one is Joseph wants to talk about gem exec, which is being worked on.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I was about again to use this meeting to get some insight into our package managers, since we are introducing some new stuff in Ruby gems, which seems already be built in and widely used in other ones. So I was about to ask for some recommendation suggestions on two topics in here. So first of them is adding new command to execute files from the packages from the inside. I think there was an npx command on npm side, which was somehow recently removed, I think somehow kind of self-deprecated and moved to npm itself command. So we are looking for some experience if there's any other package manager doing something similar, mostly for security reasons, right? Since it's just like blindly executing some code, not coming from the internet, but to keep it super user friendly, it works in it's downloading the things in the background for you if not already download locally the packages and stuff around. So there's still a lot of potential security concerns in here. So if there's anyone having anything to point us to take a look, or any implementation, or even share some problems already handled in other package managers, you'll be super happy to take a look and inspire at least, or share the experience.
Anyone want to hop in on that one? No. I think one thing we might do. Oh, go ahead, Noah.
So I saw just in the notes as I flip back and forth, this looks like it's specific for Ruby.
Yes.
What you're initially looking at. Do you guys look into Go projects at all?
I'm aware
do
of
you mean
Go project and structure,
like the Go ecosystem? Yeah.
Sorry, when you say you, do you mean you, Joseph, or you, the whole group?
The whole group.
Well, we haven't had much contact with Go folks yet. I think
Okay.
there have been attempts to reach out in the past that haven't really gone anywhere. Go folks are very confident in their implementations, in my experience.
Uh-huh.
I would say it's within scope of this group, but whether or not we have somebody from there is a different question.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, David. Getting to the point.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's a good one. I've seen a lot of OSSF projects are very Go centric in the packages that they make and the tooling that they do. And I thought this group struck me as like Ruby centric.
Oh, I hope it doesn't.
Well, just
you know,
at an initial glance, a few things.
Oh, it's today we have a lot of Ruby, but sometimes we got a lot of NPM on the agenda. Sometimes we're hearing from PyPI. We got folks here from Cargo, Maven Central. Today is quieter than usual, but it's usually pretty diverse.
I think the user, the reason for this, Noah, is actually a total accident for you. There was some funding actually happening at Ruby recently, which really super boosted development. So there's a lot of stuff we are trying to keep in sync with other repositories. So we are building new features which are already built around. So I'm usually trying to ask here also to share some experience these days in here. So maybe seems a little Ruby specific, but it's not really in the end.
Oh, very good.
Returning to the question that you had, Joseph, because we have a relatively light attendance today, can I suggest perhaps also bringing this up on the mailing list for wider distribution?
Definitely. I will open both questions in there as well. I was more today not to really spend time with, just introduce the others on the call to this problem, and maybe then discuss async to not really spend the whole time.
That makes sense.
And also, I was targeting for NPM mostly, right? Since they are having this feature. And I think seems nobody from NPM is today in here, so I will try to reach them in this group, but in async channel, on a Slack or an email list.
Yeah, I think the mailing list is a good place to bring it up, and we can sort of poke Trevor or Miles if we get stuck. So the next one is also you, Joseph. You were talking about the package content ingestion. Can you say first of all what that is or what that means?
So let me explain a little. It's also, I think, feature we would like to introduce already built on that different package managers. Currently, the package, the gem on columns our side, is just few files start together and zipped and just call it gem. It's not really custom format. And when somebody is going to publish this gem, we just blindly store it to S3 today these days, and it just we don't really look inside. We just store it. And currently, we are looking for a way to actually ingest the content of the package somehow, and to be able to build some tools around the content of the package. And one of those tools we would like to build is also some kind of security analysis, what's happening in there. Since this is currently provided by third parties, and we would like to, thanks all the funding and stuff happening around, to start like understanding the content of packages on our own. And the initial part is super simple. Just somehow read the content of the package, um, store somehow, and then build some simple UI when you can on the web browse the package content. And also, for example, when it's really interesting, then do quick diff on web between two versions, right? So you can decide on your own easily if this different something I would like to pull in um, to my local gem bundle. And we've seen as well, this is already built on various package managers. So we are also interested. For now, we are interested in a way how to index this code, store it, so share some knowledge on this side. And in the future, maybe we can do some. I think there was the Datadog project shared last time, which is capable of scanning multiple kind of codes, right? So maybe we can just contribute to that one and use it internally to scan our gems internally, right? So maybe also build some shared effort on this, on those topics, which once we will know the content of the packages, we can start reading it, evaluating, taking a look, exposing to users in various ways. If there's anything for anyone to share as well, to take a look and inspire it, or again, mostly we are looking for the pain points, right? So we don't need to repeat and go the blind way as well.
Any thoughts from folks? No is against it. Is that what I'm seeing?
No, but I'd love to hear you find we have essentially the same problem with PyPI. No lessons to share.
I was a skeptic on this one. Joseph knows, just because I sort of see it needing potentially a lot of resources. But I also, Andre, one of the Ruby Gems folks, pointed out that there's a sort of on the scale of decades a risk on relying on third parties to do this, and that it really needs to be something that the platform itself is responsible for or capable of. So that brought me around when he put it that way.
I think that's one of the motivations to stay super independent and isolated, right? So we can do anything in Ruby Gems on our side. Andre was reasoning the Ruby Gems are in here for more than 20 years already. So it would be nice to do our best to keep it moving forward and don't really rely on third-party software as much as possible, or at least keep it open still, right? So since all we do in Ruby Gems is super open, there's only tiny part being currently private. Yeah, so that's how we are looking in here. And I've seen again npm already is doing this somehow. I think they are having like online browser of the packages, so we can also ask again anything for some hints. I think cpan is doing the same as well. You can read the package of the cpan online. So yeah, definitely we can inspire somewhere. And then in the future, maybe we can provide something like CodeQL public repository, right? So anyone can just take a look, which can be super useful. We already do this in Ruby Gems, but it's super private since the resources needed. We host somehow, or someone from Ruby team, from the core team is hosting the whole Gems mirror locally at some machine. and they are able to run some grabs and stuff around the code base. So if there's some discussion about deprecating some stuff, for example, we can grab the all the public packages at once and see if some API call is widely adopted in all the packages published ever. And thanks to some modern technologies like the CodeQL and proper indexing, we will be able maybe later provide this kind of query, open query repository to anyone. So any maintainer can take a look how those API calls and methods are used across the packages and then decide on their own. So we are looking forward for this. Okay, I will ask again, as mentioned in async somehow in email list, and let's hope you will get some inspiration and some shared knowledge in there.
Sounds good to me. Anyone else have any thoughts they wanted to put on that before we moved on? Going once, twice. So Dustin, you're up.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly share, I think this is something we talked about before. IPI is moving forward with a OIDC-based credentialless publishing authentication method. And so in the initial release, this will be the ability to publish a PyPI package from GitHub Actions over via OIDC, OpenID Connect. It's super cool. This is something that like any repository probably could support. So we're going to do a private beta for this pretty soon and open this up to folks probably within the next month publicly. And I just want to say I'd be happy. I know the GitHub folks have been really helpful in getting this working. Be totally interested to talk to any other repositories who are thinking about implementing this. I know that NPM is kind of moving to implement this as well. So yeah, any questions or anything, I'm happy to share. And if you want to join the beta, there's a sign up form. Feel free to share that.
So does this mean the GitHub Actions is behaves like a OIDC provider in here?
Yeah, so each individual run of every workflow has a unique identity. And so on PyPI, you'd configure which repository, which workflow you trust for publishing. And then at publish time, you exchange an OIDC identity for a API token that's short-lived, and then you use that for upload. So no secrets that stored, no passwords, nothing like that.
And are there any plans to make it generic later? So not really GitHub Action related, but opening this to any OIDC provider?
Yeah, so the current implementation would support anyone that can provide an OIDC identity. The thing about OIDC is that it's a list of claims, and some of them are standardized, but most of them are not. So things like the GitHub repository is specific to GitHub's OIDC identity. So that would need to be configured per provider. But I think there's sort of some consensus around what these should look like for software repositories, at least. So I know GitLab is working on something similar. Google Cloud, like every service account, has an OIDC identity. But yeah, you'd need to configure that specific to the provider.
We had in mind, and we as me wearing the team at Shopify who help out with Ruby Gems, in mind that we want to revisit this subject. And we know, having talked to Andre from Ruby Gems, that he's also interested in solving this sort of problem of making it easy for a build to automatically acquire a token. And we saw this workflow being done for, I think it was like AWS and GCP were the first ones where you could exchange the GitHub token for an API token. And yeah, had the same idea, right? That you would take the OIDC token, exchange it for a short-lived or single-use API token with, like owning permission to push. And then that would make a lot of things. I suppose you're probably still going to keep existing mechanisms for a long time, though.
Yes, so that's a question that's probably already come up, which is that does using this mean that you can't do existing authentication mechanisms? And that's no. I mean, this is essentially like a way to generate an API token that's really tightly scoped. Yeah.
Okay.
And so for now, it's just for automated builds. You can build from the same manual push.
It would be for any anyone that's publishing from GitHub Actions currently. So I think in the beta, you'd sort of have to manually request and get the API token. The plan is to integrate this into the canonical like publishing GitHub Action workflow and publishing tool, so that they would just, if they didn't have credentials, they could figure out if they were on GitHub Actions and request the credentials and just use those. So,
and is this then Dustin? Since currently on RubyGem side, just per my experience, there are no numbers behind this this sentence. I think majority of publishes of the packages is done manually. Just somebody manually run some commands and do it from the console usually. Not sure what's the situation on PyPy, but is your goal to limit this and prefer the automated way of publishing then? And this can be a nice step, right? So provide some benefits, nice actions, everything that which can make it much easier then, right? To publish packages, which will most likely result into users preferring this method over the manual one.
Yeah. I mean, I think the general push is for more automated releasing and less like running it on your machine kind of stuff. So yeah, this is like a nice thing that would motivate people to move off of that and off to something automated. But yeah, I mean, obviously the old workflows are still supported.
I know, for example, that Rails is released manually, or semi-automatically. I guess they run a reg task that does all the tedious bits.
I think currently the biggest problem is entering the OTP code. That's the step they need to do manually, right? So everything is automated, but somebody needs to step in, get a device, and enter the OTP code. So
they've got logic that works out how far into the release it's gone very quickly. This is because Rails has a whole bunch of gems that roll up into Rails. So you have the main Rails gem that depends on active this, active that. And so the release is not complete until all of those relied upon gems have also been released. So the script has logic that notices that it's crashed halfway through, like that the OTP token has expired halfway through the pushes and that it needs to get a new one. Your reaction is kind of like a beautiful mirror of how they feel about this process. Aaron Patterson is not a huge fan of having to pull out his phone and keep it open while he's releasing Rails. So it's something that's like on our list of things that we think would be nice to make easier. Making it automated would be really, really pleasant if they could do that.
The other thing I'll add is, so we have a problem on PyPI where the link to a GitHub repository for a given package is essentially metadata that's unverified. So there's this problem where people can just put whatever they want. With OADC-based publishing, we can sort of say, not only can we say, we know exactly the GitHub repository that this came from, and so we can sort of verify that link this way, but for individual releases, we can tie those back to individual commits on GitHub as well, and workflows that published from those commits. So it's like a nice opportunity to like connect back to where things were created and provide a little more information there as well that we can't do right now.
Yeah, I think it's critical to be able to say, I got this, where's the source that came from, and be able to verify it. I'm sure I see that Chris Lamb is on, so he'll appreciate this. Within the for the OpenSSF dashboard stuff that's currently in an early stage of discussion, they're trying to create a little dashboard where you can see what's the state of some particular open source software package, be it on Maven or wherever else. And I am hoping to convince them, at least as a stretch goal, is an attempt to reproduce the package and be able to say either yes, I could, or no, I couldn't. Scovette has done some things where at least in some cases, you can eventually guess and figure out what the build command must have been. And at least in some cases, actually produce something. In some cases, if you back off and say, well, okay, everything's fine except for the dates. I'm sure Chris Lamb will have comments about that, but it's still lesser risk than, hey, look, it's everything fine except for the crypto mining code that was added after the source was released, which has happened many times.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that comes up in that effort on Ruby gems to make the source accessible more easily, like the actual source of the gem rather than somebody pinky swears that this is the repo.
I have a crazy thought, and I've raised it before, I think in this group, but it was a long time ago. But it would be awesome if at least some of the repos modified their workflows and basically said, sure, upload the package. That's our test case. We'll rebuild it and see if they match. In the short term, just rebuild and tell you if they don't match. And in the long term, I'd like to see big warning flashes that say, they don't match. And maybe in the farther future, oh, they don't match. Must be an error. Go back and fix it.
It's
Wait,
tricky.
let me know when you're ready to release.
The tricky part is, I know this is true for Ruby and Gradle, and I'm not sure who else, that the definition, the manifest, the spec, whatever you want to call it, gem spec is what we call it in Ruby gems, is executable. It's Ruby code. It's a DSL.
I'm
so
well aware of this. Yes. But
yeah,
you can rerun it again and get the same answer. If you give code the same inputs, it can sometimes give the same answers.
where I'm driving at is that's one aspect, right? Is like the analyzability of it. Nightmares of.
I'm not worried about analyzability. I'm worried about rerun.
The thing I'm worried about is people putting crypto mining code in their gem spec and uploading it. That's what I'm worried about. As soon as you have to execute the code, you have free compute. And if there's anything crypto miners have taught us, is that they can smell free compute from anywhere on the planet and use it and abuse it.
Yeah, indeed. I think that was the final killing blow for Heroku's free services. Same problem.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, which a lot of people are very sad about. Fair enough, although I think that can be somewhat resolved by not giving them the answers, because most crypto miners, if they do the mining but can't get the crypto, are very unhappy.
It's true. It's something to think about. I think it'll be difficult to prioritize it over competing things like salsa provenance, SIG store integration, OIDC exchanges. Like if I think about the three things that interest me, as well as stuff that's being done on Ruby gems, like gem exec and ingestion and the new admin console and a bunch of stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
I just want to brag, by the way, that like the progress in Ruby gems lately has been just amazing. Just want to rub that in.
I will say that the press towards MFA token, the crypto mining stuff in many cases is because a developer's account got popped. So, the press towards MFA on GitHub and Ruby gems and lots of other folks, I think is making progress towards that. I still want to see reproducible builds longer term, but it is having an effect right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that rollout with GitHub. I think that's going to raise the water level so much in terms of people will have to get used to two-factor authentication and be set up for it. It'll become much easier to expand the number of people we cover in our different ecosystems. Yes. All right. Is there any other business that people would like to discuss or bring up? As much as I'm enjoying this sort of wandering conversation.
Just if there's no other business, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So for the repository, GitHub uses everywhere. So all the stuff that OpenSSF is doing is very cutting edge. So I really enjoy listening and learning. However, a lot of it is very complicated for a lot of users. So is there any, like, for example, the CIS benchmark, there's a concept called implementation group that, based on the complexity and the effectiveness of the change, the security controls is put into different groups. So group one is easier to implement, but has much good effect. So in the OpenSSF landscape, is there such a thing as well? Like what can be done right away without waiting for the latest software and most effective in securing repositories?
I think there's two answers that I can give. One is that Salsa is focused on that from a build sort of centric point of view. There's also S2C2F, which should have been called Samba. I'm still salty about that. which is the secure supply chain consumption framework that was pioneered and donated by Microsoft into the OpenSSF. So that focuses it more from a I'm a consumer of dependencies kind of focus. And both of those have like levels in them. Levels as a concept, leveling up, where controls are sort of grouped together, and they are broadly organized in sort of like order of complexity or difficulty. So for example, in Salsa, by the time you reach level 4, you need to have hermetic and reproducible builds, right? Which is not a simple thing. Am I misremembering that?
Well, it is in the version 0.1, but they are working on a version 1 release. And for the moment, they're only defining levels 1 through 3 because it turns
4 is
out that
hard.
there's 4 is hard, and more importantly, there's more and more controversy. So
Oh, good.
And so they've decided they're going to do things in bites. We can agree on levels 1 through 3 for building. Let's do that. Then we'll come back and do the other arguments about source and level 4 and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a past party to that controversy in the sense that I'm like, but what about pairing? I'm a pairing fanatic. Where does that fit? Okay, so the second half of the answer, Victor, is that there is an end users working group, which is also part of the OpenSSF. I attend that group also. And one of the things that the end users working group was inspired by was this exact question. It's like, okay, I am not an OpenSSF junkie. I don't go to the OpenSSF meetings all the time. This is me speaking hypothetically. What do I do? Where do I start? You know, there's just a sea of documentation and ideas, and where do I begin? So that's something that the end users group has been working on, particularly around sort of some reference architectures that you can look at and get guidance on where to go for more information and guidance. And also there's been some cooperation with the Diagrammer Society, which is an effort to basically lay out in some diagrams what the formal shape of the OpenSSF is and how things relate to each other and where they fit in the project lifecycle, et cetera, et cetera. Does that help?
Yeah, they help. Thanks.
No worries. Okay. Were there any other things that people would like to discuss today? Going once? Going twice? Okay. So it sounds to me like we can knock off early, give ourselves back another 21 minutes by my count. Thank you everybody for coming today. I think it was very productive. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks at the EMEA friendly time, which is in the morning for folks on the East Coast of the United States and at various other times around the world. And we will see you there, or not, as time zones permit. Okay, everybody.
Thanks
for
folks.
Thank you. Bye.